We went to the Beehive and that was really crammed out, and I'm just really impressed about the number of people that have come tonight, so thank you very, very much. It's nice to have so many friendly faces and people that support us. That's really, really lovely. Now there's two things to an AGM. For those of you that know me for a while, I used to work for charities for most of my career, so our AGMs were always really just excuses for massive parties, and that's where we're going to head. So we have to do some boring-ish, dry stuff, tell you about what we've done, show you the money and what we spent it on. And then, behind that curtain, there's a bit of a surprise, and we're going to have some entertainment and some dancing and stuff. We'll have to move the chairs out of the way for that. We've also got some drinks, and we've also got them, and they have all been elected to be directors. We'll talk about that in a bit. At the back is a director who doesn't want to be sitting at the front, Leslie, so I'll just embarrass her now. Give her a wave, Leslie. Thank you very much. She needs to be near the light, that's fine. She can stay there, that's how we are. Okay, and the man sitting on the left there with the big glasses, I've been his boss since February, that's Ian. He's very shy and retiring, which I'm sure you'll know. But we're going to look after him. He's my chief operating officer, yeah? And that's Ian, who's come over from the council, who's going to work with me, but we've known each other for many years. There are lots of staff copies of the last minutes of the last AGM that we held. So if it's okay with you directors, are we okay to agree those minutes, please? Yeah. So I was trying to check who was first out of the trapdoor then. I'm pretty sure it was Sonny. So Sonny proposed, and was it you seconding, Jeff? Thank you very much. So the minutes of the last meeting, our AGM that we held some 18 months ago, have now been agreed. Now, at this moment in time, I should be handing over to a man called John Paddock, who's our financial advisor and gives us all sorts of financial advice. But I got a phone call 2 days ago to say I'm in Australia, or something like that. So he's going to pick his relatives up from Australia, and he'd forgotten. So I'm going to attempt to do the boring bit, but it's interesting really because it's about numbers. So those of you that can see on this screen, and I'll read it out for others, yeah? So, now, the slightly confusing thing about our company, maybe for some of you, I'm not talking about this year just gone, I'm talking about the last financial year. So, hopefully if I touch this screen, really, there's the welcome bit. You'll see at the bottom there, for those of you that don't know, we're a social enterprise. That means we're not like a charity, we can make money, but we can put our profit to good purpose and back to the community. Yeah, and that's what's really important to us, so we're going to have a look at. So, these were John's comments. He was really proud that throughout this year, ending March 2012, we continued to develop the business through the year. We made major progress in moving from a grant-funded organisation to a service-providing business. That's really important for us as a social enterprise. We love all the local charities and we like the way charity works, but we don't really go for grants, we trade, we do business. A lot of our business is sitting in this room. Bit weird to think of people like that because of course they're all people, aren't they? But the people that use our services are funded and paid for, they pay us, we provide a service, and the profit goes back to the community. So, we formally launched in that year our transition independent living programme at Hathaway in October, and we started to rapidly grow a PA business in this year. So, John put some money, just compare 2011 with 2012. So this is proving our point about what our strategy was moving away from grants. Well, they're not lining up on this Apple device. Right, so in 2011 we had £105,000 worth of grants in, and those of you that have been around a while will remember I went and got some money from the European Social Fund, from the local PCT, from the Department of Health and places like that. If you look in 2012, that went right down to £19,000. That's a good thing, because if you look at the blind marked services, we went from only doing £23,000 worth in 2011 to £82,000. So our earned income was made up 28%, so our services were 28% of our income in 2011, but look, in 2012, they're 84.2%, so it's a lot more, a lot bigger slice of that cake is our earned income. So in 2012, our total income was £126,000. Those of you astute will note the rent there, £11,800 in 2011. It went up to £13,200 in 2012. The reason it did that was we built in the cost of providing a cleaner for 23 Hathaway Road so we could give someone with a learning disability a job. Okay. So, John's comment was a real turnaround. So, this is what we actually spent. And what you'll see there is in 2011 we spent £28,000 on salaries, £18,000 on training. I sound like an auctioneer, don't I? Motors, £8,194. Rent, £8,872, where we had to rent our premises. But in 2012, what you'll notice there is the salaries have obviously gone up to £49,000 a year, and we actually spent out £124,000. For those of you that observe it, there's one really big number and she's not here, our lawyer, so I can tell you about this. Look at the legal advice. In 2011, we spent roughly £2,500, but in 2012, we spent nearly £30,000 on legal advice. It's a lot of money. I like lawyers. In case any of you haven't noticed, I talk fast, particularly when they charge £60 every 10 minutes, which is what our lawyer costs us in London. Every 10 minutes, me and Liam in the office there, trying to talk as fast as we can. She's clicking the button. But Abby is absolutely lovely. She works for Bakewells and Breakways. And what she's doing is keeping the directors safe. Because those of you that know, this year we were negotiating the really big contract that we've won with Thurrock Council, which is what the celebration's about today, yeah? But we needed to make sure that all that document was legally sound, all the leases we took out on the buildings, all that information was good, and keeping these guys, who are the legal directors of this company, safe. So that, to me, was money well spent. But you can see it was a lot of money. Moving on, which is in the accounts. In last year we'd done 66,000, and that was because our strategy was to save the money in 2011 to spend in 2012 to make sure we could keep the business going and up and running and get this legal advice. So, non-cash items. This is an accountancy thing, and there's an accountant in the room, so forgive me, Dean. Depreciation. Remember we talked about that before, how things that you buy are worth less money if you had to sell them. Right? So this year, so things like the houses that we bought way back in 2010, yeah, we're allowed to say every year that they're worth less money. All the tables and chairs that we bought, all the computers, the couple of minibuses, all that stuff has been going down in value on paper. So what that meant was we could say to the taxman, that was £59,613 worth of depreciation, stuff that's worth less money. Don't panic though, we haven't lost money. So overall for the year, the actual net assets, the total worth of the company, all the things that we own, the houses, the vehicles, the tables, the chairs, the cash in the bank, fell by 57,000. Because the year before, it'd gone up by 519 because we'd bought some houses and they've been put into the accounts, yeah? So, what that means is we have to look at what do we actually own, how much money do we owe to other people and what the company's worth. And for that, you look at the balance sheet, and that's what's sat at the back there, you can see that. So as of the 31st of March 2012, so we're talking quite a long time ago, the assets that we own, the land and buildings, we think are worth £434,493. That's the two houses in Hathaway. Yeah? The vehicles, because vehicles, as everybody knows, as soon as you buy them, they're not worth much. So those two lovely vehicles that we bought a long time ago, they're now only worth £16,780 between the pair of them. I'm sure Grant will have a comment on that because he's our vehicle expert. The fixtures and that, he's laughing. Fixtures and that, so tables and chairs, that worth about £5,289. Some people owed us about £14,000 at this point, and we had £32,000 in the bank. So that means if you had to sell everything and have a stash of money in the middle of this room, we'd have had £503,940. And then how much did we owe? And actually, we only owed £14,369 to other people. So that's good news, because we've got more money in the bank, more things that we own, than we owe other people money, which is very good news. So, that actually means we've got a net surplus in our wealth as a company. We are worth £489,571, which is really important, guys. Remember, when we were negotiating the council contract, we had to have some value in this company, so that's what we achieved. As a company, we're a bit different because probably 97%, something like that, of the people we support don't read and write. So we don't produce a really glossy AGM pamphlet like lots of places do. We tend to just make a simple film. So what we've got here is the directors wanted to give a message to each of you, and that's very hard to do in public, so they were filmed on Wednesday to give their messages. And there's a couple of excerpts in there of films that we've made during the year, about 2 pieces of work that we're quite proud of.
I had 3 jobs when I left school. We want to get people out to work to learn different ideas, what they should do and what they shouldn't do. Jealous want to get people out of work, get jobs.
Hello, I'm Liam. I'm one of the directors of Lifestyle Solutions. Director is fantastic really because I'm like a role model, plus I like to, when a customer can't speak to staff, I'm there to actually support and help them and guide them. Work with the customers, work with the staff, work with a lot of people, but yeah, it's quite interesting really. The future I like to see is the actual customer start to run the actual calorie bases themselves. That's what I like to see. So, I like to see more customers have plenty of health checks in the future. Yeah, I reckon we should do some health training, and I would be a part of that, which I like to run like a health group.
Lizzie Matthews, I'm on various committees, but at the moment I'm representing TLS. I'm on the board because
because last year I've done a lot of the Keep Safe events, try to get winners for others. So it's had all the police, the bottles, coolers, the first aid, and the toilet standards. In the future, I just want to hoping for somebody that might be interested to do a social night out or weekend stuff.
I'm Anne White, a director of Thurrock Lifestyle Solutions since 2010. All of us must be disabled, and we all have a mix of skills to bring to the board, and we must listen to each board member, because each board member is different from one to the other, but their skills together make it more of a valuable partnership. You don't always get a fair voice when there's more people who are non-disabled. It would be, we said it in the last AGM, and I just wish you all to look at some of the paperwork that's at the side, so that if any of you are interested to become a director, a new director, you will need some training and then an interview, and then you could be opt on as part of the time. But there will be some paperwork at the back of the hall, so you can pick it up if you wish. And there is a hustling process which you need to go on to encourage your friends to vote for you.
To be clear at this point, there is still a lot of fantastic stuff that's going on, and particularly since the 1st of February, when we supported the council to come over into our services, that's going on. But this is about looking backwards. So there's all sorts of really good stuff going on that we'll definitely be talking about next year. But I'm talking about stuff that's in the past, so just to be a bit sensitive to that, because there's lots of staff here. And what I wanted to say to the staff was thank you. Because this idiot stood up in 2007 and said, hey, in 6 months' time we'll have a social enterprise and it'll all be up and running. And in case you don't know, that's quite a few years between 2007 and 13, yeah? So it took a long time. We were in Peterborough recently because we get asked to speak at places, and they said, how long did it take? And I said, 6 years, and they just looked stunned. They've got 18 months. It's not going to happen. These processes take time. So we had lots of support. But in the last 18 months, one of the things that's always been critical for TLS's success is partnership. And that partnership is very much in this room today. The guys will tell you when we do our training, we talk about equal value partnerships. What's good here is everybody's here on an equal footing. People really like each other, they really respect each other, and we know how to work together. So as part of that, we formed something called the Thurrock Coalition, and as part of that, with several other local organisations, Thurrock Diversity Network, Thurrock Centre for Independent Living, etc., we held lots of events last year that we were quite proud about. One of which was one that Leslie wanted, which was a sensory event, where we said to the council, actually, it's not good enough. You're not doing enough work for people that are visually impaired or deaf in this borough. And they listened, and services started to change. Yeah? We also did something called housing hurdles, because we thought there was a problem with what was going on with housing. One of our little tricks to let you know is when we get senior officers from the council come to meetings, they're given a postcard, and they make pledges on that postcard, and we ask them to put their address on it, and we post it to them 6 months later. Now, Barbara, who's the Director of Housing, put several things on that list, And believe it or not, in 6 months that's happened. If you need your house to be adapted in Thurrock now, the waiting time is half compared to what it used to be, and it's still going down, which is a fantastic thing. And that came about partly from talking to her at the Housing Hurdles. They've also really done a massive, the coalition's done a massive consultation about sport. Now, for those of you who know me, my big thing's music. I'm totally not into sport. I was left behind the goal at school and right back in the changing rooms. That was me, because I was always doing music, yeah? But there are lots of sporty people around in this organisation, and I just can't believe all the work that's happened in the last few months that's fantastic, that's supported people to get involved in sport, and we'll be telling you more about that next year, but it's quite exciting. We work alongside our friends there at Thurrock Mind at the back, their chief execs sitting down there at the back. And one of the things we did last year was we put in together for a bid to support carers and parents, because we recognise that it's really difficult. We are a disability organisation, we are pro-disabled people. I'm okay, I go home at night. Lots of you parents will know this, you're around all the time. It's 24/7 for you. We wanted to have a way of supporting you. So we formed something called Cariads. Cariads is a Welsh word that means loved one, but actually C-A-R-I-A-D-S, Carers Information and Advice Support. Carers Information, Advice and Support. Stop laughing at the back. So we formed that, and the person laughing at the back is Lita, who is the manager of that, and we got money. So over 3 years it's about 400k, which is fantastic. So there's 4 workers that are going to be supporting carers all around this borough to help fulfil their caring role. And already, I mean, Lita, you've been doing about 60 people a month, so to speak. You've met with about 60 a month, isn't it? So the team's not yet fully formed. Joanna, who's to the right of her there, is our newest member of staff. She started 3 days ago, so we won't ask her any questions. But we're very proud about Cariads. The other big partner that we work with is Thurrock Council, of course. None of us could be here without Thurrock Council. They've been really supportive of this project right from day one. It takes a long time. We went through 7 heads of procurement, trust me. We went through about half a dozen lawyers at the council. We went through lots of senior staff, but we stayed consistent. We kept asking, and we kept asking. And finally we won through and we won the bid. As part of that, we've been very heavily involved in the Disability Partnership Board. We've been involved in helping to write lots of strategies. There is now an autism strategy in this borough out for consultation. There is a transition strategy, and we worked very well with, I don't think they're here, but the Community Safety Partnership. Michelle Cunningham has been brilliant to us. Sonny spoke about his Keep Yourself Safe events, where we get the fire brigade, the police, all those people in to give people good advice. They are happening all the time. We did 4 last year, we're going to do 2 this year, and that's supported by the Community Safety Partnership. We've just started a course called Safer, about people learning how to keep themselves safe, and again that's going to happen this year, funded by the Community Safety Partnership partly. The other thing we did was we worked with our friends at CVS, Local Community Voluntary Services, and we got heavily involved in interviewing. It's a fantastic thing when you're in a room with lots of people who are normally the service user, we don't like that term, and what happens is they're there making a decision about whether you get a job. You know, that's very, very empowering. That's how Triangle turned up the other way, right? And we've done that, and we were very heavily supportive and involved in this, of having local area coordinators in post. These guys here helped me devise the questions. One of the questions we asked was, what do you love about Thurrock? Which is a very simple question, but it's a test. If you're going to come and work here, then you need to love this borough and tell us about it. Don't start knocking it, tell us about it. And it was fascinating. So we were involved in that, and we've now been involved in interviewing social workers. We're on the panel for Basildon Hospital's nurse that's going to specialise in this strategy for supporting people with learning disabilities at the hospital, because we know there's been some problems there. We're also heavily involved in the independent advisory group for the police. So Mr. Saini again sat over there, you know, he's on first name terms with the Chief Constable of Essex, good for him. Everyone else calls him Sir, Sonny doesn't, which is quite funny to observe. But the reality is, he's very interested in hate crime. He doesn't want hate crime. People know what hate crime is when people are horrible to you when you're on a bus, just because you've got this label of learning disability, yeah? That's wrong, and that is against the law. He's very keen to hear about that. The number of hate crimes reported in Thurrock against disabled people have gone up. That's actually good, because it shows that people are talking about it. So I think the crimes have always been there, but we're going to do something about that. There is a dark side to what we do. And there's a film that we couldn't possibly show you here, that Anne alluded to in her speech. We are very aware that there are women with learning disabilities in this borough who have pretty horrible experiences. So in Thurrock there was a violence against women and girls strategy from the council, and we got heavily involved alongside CERIC, who's a local women's support group, to say actually there's a particular problem for women here. And that's a very powerful and moving film that we show to professionals with them telling about their experiences. On the back of that, we're going to provide part of our community interest, a women's support group, and going forward we'll support those women to be able to make those decisions and not to make bad decisions. I've had a health check. The last time Thurrock produced any stats, and we're waiting for the new ones, it was right down at 11%, the lowest in the country. That's not good. That makes people like me, Ian, and the staff get really angry, because we don't like going to funerals of people early. It's not right, is it? No one should die early. That's not good. And sadly in Thurrock we've got a problem. But being us, we've gone to the meetings, we've got involved, we've talked to the clinical commissioning group, we've spoken to lots of other people about this has got to change, and they're listening. So myself and Graham Carey, who's the independent safeguarding chair at the back there, we went along to meet a lot of nurses the other day who work in the practices, and we're going to do some training with them to get their awareness up about what is this problem, why are people not having these health checks. So in the summer we're going to run a giant health day in which everybody can come and have at least your blood pressure, your blood sugars and things like that checked. There are some GPs in Thurrock that are absolutely fantastic, and there are some GPs that were considering going and putting placards outside to their place of work. We haven't quite got there yet, but we're considering it. It's not something we really want to do, but we might do it. On the brighter side, you heard about the transition house. That has now been running for 1.5 years roughly. We had the first 3 people go through that house. They've lived there, they had the training, some of them were in the room. They became a little bit more independent, and be clear what that means. Not on your own in a flat, being lonely, being bullied by the neighbours, being the right level of support and included in your community. So we've had success with that we're really, really proud of, and we're going to carry on with that. You saw the transition work with the school, which was brilliant. And then the next thing we did, when we announced that we'd won the contract with the council, the first thing that I told your Thurrock and the press was we were going to get some apprentices. Now I don't want to embarrass anyone, but some of those people are in this room. And let me tell you this, if you're an old git like me of 50, when you think of 16-year-olds, you think, oh, it's because it's going to be a real pain. But those interviews that myself and the directors and Ian and others were involved in were some of the best interviews I've ever done. Because these young people off Thurrock, and I think they're all from Thurrock, aren't they, Ian? 100% people from Thurrock were absolutely fantastic. They might not have paper qualifications, but they've got the right attitude. And this job, they've all gone red now, this job, I won't look at, this job is all about attitude. 90% of it's about how you are with people. Do you treat people equally? What do you know? What do you think? Yeah? And people have done fantastically well, and we've employed those 6 apprentices, and we're going to carry on with that. We're going to train them, and we're going to carry on with the apprentices because we won the single tender process for the council services. That's fantastic. So we inherited a really brilliant team, and we moved them over to us, and that was fantastic. And we built on the team that we already had. So Ian and I are working hard to bring those teams together, and the management team that sits below us are part of that, and some of you people sitting in this room are definitely part of that and part of our future, which is a bright one, yeah? So, in the future, we're going to build on our partnerships. We're proud of these staff that we've inherited and what they do. We're going to build more and more training into what we do, and we're going to build on the positive. As Liam said on there, we want to hand the locality bases over to the control of the people that use them currently. That's a really hard thing to do, but we're going to do that. And we want to strengthen our partnerships with health. And also, we're looking at opening a new locality base, not a brand new building, but a new locality base in South Ockenden because we recognise the current one's too small. The other thing that Sonny mentioned in his speech was his review of activities. Yeah, he's done a big questionnaire with a lot of the guys in the room, and we're going to review all the social activities that we operate with and work in partnership with other people to put on more social activities. So, overall, we're going to build on everything. We're going to build on our community interest and gain some new investment into the borough. We're going to expand, and ultimately, we're going to give people even more choice and control. Thank you.
Because Thurrock Lifestyle Solutions are an organisation that share my values in terms of disability. I'll explain a bit more about that later, but first, my association with Thurrock Lifestyle Solutions is a long one, and my association with the directors is an even longer one, and with Neil as well. I was talking to Neil before I came in, and I asked him when he got his first job in Thurrock. It was 1996, and I was on the interview panel. So there aren't too many people in this room who can say they've known Neil longer than I have. And again, I spoke to him before the meeting started, and we reckon that we've known each other since the mid-80s. Jeff used to come along to my Wednesday youth club at Stamford. Oh, that's it, yeah. Liam I've known for many years as well. Mark, of course, at the end there, I've known him for many years, and Ian as well, and Sonny, mustn't forget Sonny, yeah. So that's my association with TLS, but also as the portfolio holder. When I became the portfolio holder in 2010, about 5 minutes after I started, the phone rang, and it was Neil talking to me about Thurrock Lifestyle Solutions and how important it was to make sure that the council did its bit to get that contract signed. So I did all I could as a portfolio holder to encourage that. As Neil said, the wheels turned quite slowly and the legal side of it took forever, but we did get there in the end, unfortunately slightly after I finished as a portfolio holder and became deputy mayor. But I think I did my bit. And to me that means an awful lot, because when I first lost use of my legs, started using a wheelchair, I found life quite a struggle. But then when I found out about the social model of disability, it kind of lifted the weight off my shoulders, and I realised that there was something that I could do to improve my life, give myself back choice and control, and perhaps even try and help other people to do that as well. So I think Thurrock Lifestyle Solution is a social model in action, because it gives people choice and control in their lives, and you couldn't really get a better example of people having control of their lives than you have with the directors that we've got today. And also it gives people a chance to play a full role in society and be at the heart of community. So I really support the organisation and I hope it continues to thrive. Thank you.
The process at the AGM, at our last board meeting we were discussing carrying on using Rowland Hall. Some of you may recognise Dean at the back there. Local company that we use regularly and they've been very good to us, so we'd like to suggest that we carry on using them. Would someone okay to propose that? Thank you, Sonny. Didn't quite see the hands quick enough, it might have been Liam second. So, Sonny and Liam. Okay, yes, my board meetings are very interesting at times. They're fun. But thank you, Dean. So we've reappointed Rowland Hall, and Dean's been very supportive, including the time that Sonny demanded to see the man in control of the money and turned up at Rowland Hall, demanding a cup of tea and a biscuit, if I remember rightly. But quite rightly, you weren't patronised at all, Sonny, and I have to say, I know what you're going to say, Anne, about the accessible accounts, aren't you? Yes. There was a very funny story that the accounts were produced for the directors. I sat down and I started going through it thinking, I don't understand this, I don't understand this. And Dean, when I got to page 5, had wonderfully written a very clear and accessible version. Now, that's very good of Rowland Hall to do that, in recognition that these guys take a bit longer to understand stuff. And we wrote to thank them for that, because it was really important. And that's why Sonny had gone to see him to say, I need to understand the money. I've got responsibilities, yeah? And that's very good, and that's part of the way we work. We've got nothing to hide, it's all good news, and Dean and Rowland Hall have made accessible accounts. The truth is, when I've shown them to other people who have accounts from Rowland Hall, they like the accessible version too, because of course it makes it easy for everyone, which is always the way. Yeah, ramps in buildings are good for everyone, etc., etc. Access is for everyone, but that's good. Lane is leaving, who's been with us from the start. Well, thanks, Danny, well timed. I can't see her actually, where's she gone? Oh, Carolyn. She has gone bright red. That's unusual. So there should be somewhere a bunch of flowers that the directors wanted to be given to Carolyn. Thank you, Michael. You can be my able assistant. This is Michael, that's our runs the handyman project for us. You'll see him around and about Thurrock in a white van with people with learning disabilities telling him what to do. If anyone's got any minor adaptations or things they need doing to their house, Michael's the man. Be prepared for some great, wonderful people to turn up with it. Right, Liam, you want to give these flowers. Thank you, Carolyn. Just to say, Carolyn, obviously you were there for the start for us, which is very, very nice of you. You're moving on to pastures new, and we're really happy about that. So thank you very much. Thank you.